Welcome back, internet users.
Welcome back.
Stegawow is here. We're here to talk about episode 7 of Foundation, Mysteries and Martyrs.
Mysteries and Martyrs.
This was an action-packed episode. I enjoyed the twists and turns, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Let's spoil it up.
I'm one of your hosts, Leblonsky.
I'm Dustin.
Glad you're here. So episode 7 opens with Salvor and Hugo having a little chat.
Oh, he's so cool.
He's so cool. And they're hostages headed to the Invictus.
And Lewis.
Good old Lewis Pyrene. I really love Lewis's line when he's like, you can't get on that ship. Like, thank you for introducing the exposition, I suppose.
Yeah, even in shackles, he's still got to be a condescending little...
What a snarky little bitch. Come on.
So they talk about jump ship tech being Empire proprietary...
State secrets.
State secrets, yeah. How much of Empire's technology are they putting copyrights on and keeping secret?
A lot of it.
Oh, like their force fields.
Yeah.
Because if everyone had force fields, then it would be like Dune. We'd be back to swords.
I realized in this episode how much their personal force fields resemble those in Dune. Because don't we even see that you can touch Empire if you go slowly?
You're right.
Straight up lifted out of Dune.
Wow.
So I do think they're hoarding technology.
So we learn in this beginning here how Crayon was able to survive the ship wreckage.
Nano boots.
And okay.
You
gotta
were
give
satisfied.
You gotta give it to them when they give you an answer, I guess. I don't know.
All right, I'm glad you're acknowledging it. That's generous of you.
It's skipping ahead a little bit, but he can get shot in the head. The nanobots don't really help.
Too much trauma.
But if he blows up in a wrecking ship, you can crawl away from that.
It probably had some kind of pod, like one of those airbags that deploys upon impact. One of those helmets. They're wild if you haven't seen them.
Is that like the thing where it's attached to the window and you go strap yourself into the backpack in the window and then you just fall out of the window and it inflates as you fall? Have you seen that? That's like
no.
Yeah, they have it's a fire escape thing.
We'll be right back. No, I was thinking of the things that looks like a fat collar around your coat.
Oh, yeah. Like a motorcycle jacket has a lot of those are like that. Okay, yeah, maybe that's how he made it. Is this when they make their jump?
Yeah, they do their ring jump. And we lose Hugo. It seems so mundane. Because here's the thing. Salvor got shoved out and made it.
Yeah.
No calculations or pre-planning.
All of them land so unceremoniously. I was expecting like some dipping and dodging and some real, some
I thought it was going to be
tension.
dicey. It was not dicey.
That was not dicey at all. It was a very boring scene. And then Hugo goes, "Ah! Ah!" So when Hugo goes flying off, I had that moment where I was like, I laughed and said, there's no way this is how Hugo goes.
Hugo of all people, not Lewis. I could understand if we lost Lewis to this kind of incident.
I mean, are we going to have any emotional reaction if Lewis...
No.
Not that kind of emotional
Not that
reaction.
kind.
So yeah, it was like a rush of emotions. I was like in a stupor, and then I was upset. There's no way you could just get rid of Hugo like that. And then I went all the way to denial. Hugo's fine. This was a part of the plan. He's going to circle back around the underbelly of Invictus. He's got a whole plan, especially when Farah dispatched Crayon after he opened the door. I was like, well, now the neural implant is gone. They definitely need Hugo to come save the day.
And then the lights blinked for the first time, and Dustin goes, "It's Hugo."
Yeah, that's Hugo. He's hacking into the mainframe. He's flipping the switches to let him know he's in.
He was so excited.
Yeah. The full gamut of emotions that I went through went all the way to acceptance, to the point where when the episode ended, I completely forgot that we lost Hugo until we just now started talking about it again.
You stopped holding your breath.
And so does Salvor. Like, she definitely has a moment where she freaks out and she's upset, but
Then she gets yelled at.
there was probably one other flash where she was remembering, and then that's it. We're moving on. I feel like we need to put a finer point on this. Maybe that's all we can say.
I think we need to do this. We need to put our microphones down.
Okay.
You need to do prayer hands. Go, Hugo. Yeah.
He's up there. He's
Yeah.
not. Okay. To Hugo.
To Hugo.
May have all the spice he'd ever want. Oh, wrong franchise.
Upon awakening.
Upon awakening.
But here's my biggest question. Do things in space get dusty? The bodies are floating and someone like wipes a film of grime off of a console at one point. That would have all just been in the miasma. And then they're able to fix the hull breach with but a touch of a button.
Yeah.
That wasn't even the buttons expert that did that. That's what's really crazy.
Those darn hull breaches.
Twice in this episode, a hull breach is like, oh, shoot.
I have a connection to this thought, but it kind of moves us into Dawn's scene, which is much further. We see his little trysts play out in the garden with the garden girl, Azura. She takes her bra off. Here's the thing about sci-fi. You don't want to go too far with your ideas of what the future are, or you end up with the 3 seashells in the bathroom. But then there's instances like this mixed in with all these force fields and nanobots where
You went to Kohl's.
Like, you can't improve a bra beyond
I mean, at least get crisscross straps or something.
just a normal clasp. It's hard.
Agreed. It took me out of it a bit. I have that bra.
All right, let's end our aside and go back to Salvor.
So after they fix the hull breach with but the touch of a button,
Yes.
she's like, I'm going to turn the gravity back on right now. No, you got to clear those hallways. All those bodies are free floating. You just go, ooh. Also, why was everybody hanging out in the hallway? I would have just been curled up in my room.
You skimmed over Lewis blowing it when the turrets activate. Our best use of Lewis in the episode, I think.
Classic Lewis.
Yeah. Lewis does figure out the blinking lights being an indicator that the ship is about to jump, though.
Was that Lewis?
Yeah.
All right.
He was counting the seconds between the
He was.
blinks.
But did he make the jump connection?
No, Farah did.
Yeah, he figured out that it was getting closer together.
He also did the mental math to figure out the rate. So he determines that they have 4 hours until the next jump, and that the Invictus had been lost by some sort of accident and has been jumping for 70 years? 700 years.
That's a lot longer.
Do you think it went the edge of the universe, like Event Horizon? There's the potential that that ship has seen some shit, much like Sam Neill, who was in that movie. Speaking of Sam Neill, we've been watching Invasion on Apple Plus as well.
We did start Apple Plus's Invasion.
Yeah, we considered reviewing it, but
We're not ready to commit to that. Let's say that.
you want to leave it at that?
Yes, we might say more at a different later time.
Moving on.
How many jumps do you think it did in 700 years that it didn't ever end up in the middle of a black hole or a star or a planet? Space is mostly vacuum.
If the intervals at which it's jumping stay the same, it's not that long. It's making a lot of jumps because Farah's saying that the scouts saw Invictus jump in while they were there, and then they concocted this plan to go get it before it jumped again. So, how long does that take? I don't know, a month maybe, we could say? A year?
We could also say a decade.
Yeah.
We don't know when they saw it.
Even if it's a decade over the course of 700 years, that's still a lot of jumps to not fall into a sun.
But the Invictus is lucky, much like Matthew Damon.
In
The stellar Hollywood smash hit, Invictus.
Again, we're still talking about nobody has watched that movie,
Including me.
Yeah.
We're almost done with Salvor here. You're actually going to have to carry us through this last bit because I wrote Invictus.
Nice. Nailed it.
Yeah.
That is the name of the ship we're on. So these jump drive cooling tanks, the way this whole room is laid out.
Why would you put large vats of a dangerous chemical at floor level?
And just a gantry in the middle of it.
Yeah. Yeah, a narrow one. It's not even, there's plenty of gaps in the railing.
Yeah. You got to stir up the ice blocks that are floating on top or whatever that was.
You can't automate that.
No.
That's a union job.
Even if you work in liquid cooling pools,
You matter.
you still matter. My guess is it's in there is so they can have a rain fight. The condensation is like collecting on the roof of this cooling room and it's falling down on them. It's just a film of rain fight.
You think they really just wanted to do rain?
I can't imagine how the production meeting for this episode went.
Perhaps Isaac detailed the condensation falling in the cooling rooms. I don't know. You know what? That's going to be my new tactic. Anytime I come across something in the show that it's just, a thorn in my side, I'm going to go, well, they're probably just being true to Isaac.
Okay.
That will only work for so long because I'm going to read it.
That's going to break down pretty quick. So there's a little tussle and one of the scientists takes an Anacreon into the cooling pools. They both go down. I was so excited to see what this cooling liquid does. Is it like an acid? Are they going to flash freeze? Or is there going to be an explosion?
A little carbonite action?
Something. This is the sci-fi show. It's like they turned the lights up and that was it. There was a splash. I don't even know if there was a splash.
There was a big splash and the splash itself was really bright. So
get out of here with this. Come on.
What you may not know is Dustin is a burgeoning editor and special effects.
I don't know if I need you calling me out like that.
What you should know is the more you know about a field like film, the harder it is to take those lumps. But even I, as a lay person, looked at that and went, oh. It was very underwhelming. And then you, with a finer eye for the detail.
You mean it's harder to watch it when you're looking at stuff like that?
You were crushed, whereas I was disappointed.
Hey, budget ran out that day. They were going home. It was the weekend. That closes us up, I think. Well, after the tussle, Rowan spares Salvor from Farah. Rowan's like, we're never leaving this ship. Not me, not you, not Hugo, wherever he may be floating on the hull.
Oh, he left the ship. He's gone.
He's coming
He's
back.
the only one who's leaving this ship.
No, Hugo's coming to save the day. Mark my words. I've had 2 predictions thus far that we don't know the outcome of. The flower on Demezriel's vanity, and Hugo is somewhere on the hull of Invictus. Calling it.
I won't point out my contrary evidence at this time. I'll leave it.
I do want to thank one of our commenters for pointing us in the direction of David S. Goyer's AMA on Reddit, because now we know that Foundation has been greenlit for season 2.
Yep. Very exciting.
Right on. You want to talk about Dawn?
Let's talk about Dawn.
Let's talk about John.
John, Jawn.
Let's talk about John, baby.
Dawn continues to get tight with Azura, and then he opens up to her quite a bit again.
Well, she gives him that colorful jump drive with the color correcting lenses inside.
Yes. He's very upset, rightfully so, because he feels misunderstood. Azura doesn't understand that he's just not like all his brothers. He shows her the backup clones that are kept on hand at all times to really drive home his point of how much he needs to fit in, not just superficially. And then Azura knows a lot about disappearing people. She's like, we can filter your blood. We can, we change your eye color, change that face. It's going to be fine. That you're right. That face, you can't leave with that face, but we can get you a new face.
So is she tapped into that kind of seedy, is it a seedy underbelly or is that just commonplace?
Okay, maybe it is, but she strikes me as one of those people that comes along in your life and is like, yeah, you can change. Oh, you didn't want to hear that? Well, too bad. You can. But she's like, hey, you can throw all the excuses at me that you want. But if you want to get out, I'll get you out. We can do this. Dawn has never, ever considered the fact that he has choice in this life. And Azura is just fire hose blasting him with it. And he can't integrate it right now.
Yeah, so he talks about kind of a plethora of things that set him apart from the other Cleons, down to his thumbs crossing in a different way.
Which is genetic. It's a classic example of simple dominant and recessive alleles that you can teach in an elementary genetics lesson, like widow's peaks and attached earlobes.
And we learn about the principium.
Principium. I always say principium because it is believed that the Latins only used hard C's.
Those tricky Latins.
I also say Iulius Caesar.
And their memories are constantly being updated to these guys.
By what?
The mind cloud. I do want to point out the mental upload thing is something we've seen in another show called Altered Carbon.
I liked it more than you did.
You did. There were things I liked about it, and maybe on the whole I was not a huge fan of. But if you're interested, check that out.
It is a threat to the entire idea of cloning, because it's not a clone. It can't be.
You mean because of the dominant traits?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe a clue.
I think it's going to end up being more spiritual than scientific why he's not identical.
We're still in a point where we don't know what's causing these differences. Is Dawn a one-off? Is Tank Dawn gonna have the same defects? Will the next generation of Cleons show these defects and maybe more?
I love where your head's at.
We don't know yet. Initially, when it happened, I was like, oh, they're alluding to some sort of decay in the genetic cloning process, which would inevitably contribute to the downfall of Empire and proving Harry's predictions correct. You know, it's just one more little thing you can sprinkle in.
Or this Cleon is going to be the savior of Empire, because at the very end of our brief time with Dawn, he interfaces with Dusk, who says that nothing outside the palace walls matters. And it's just this very, I thought it was actually slightly out of character, but it's a very blatant reminder of the major shortcoming of Empire.
It's mirrored by what Day is actually doing on
Absolutely.
Maiden.
And this is a perfect tie-in.
Yeah, on to Day.
They live on a moon, you know. When we rejoin Day and Demerzel, Day is understandably livid about Demerzel's kneeling after Halima's speech. And her justification is that because she's programmed to be 100% loyal to Empire above all, that's her robot rule number 1.
Good old Asimov and the robot laws.
She could not physically have done that if it was adverse to Empire. She is on edge for the entire episode.
Well, he definitely has her on her heels in defending this luminism, you know, because it's definitely going to be a big issue for Day. I think the beliefs of luminism and how it connects to the genetic dynasty, it feels organic. Like you definitely would have that viewpoint in contrast to your society. But to be as big as it is, I think is interesting.
Well, they mentioned the fact that this philosophy essentially proves that Empire does not have a soul, is old and repressed. They have deemed it apocryphal, heretical.
Because it's older than Cleon.
Yes.
Right. Interesting that it speaks so specifically to. Did they have to go back into the luminous doctrine once the genetic dynasty took over and tweak some things to make it more apropos?
I'm not sure. Luminism is very old and very large.
So we learn about the spiral.
Yeah, Halima's got the people's ear. And so Cleon goes down into the trenches to see her.
He literally said that.
And talk shop. Try to...
Sometimes he's such a dweeb.
In this entire episode, he was a dweeb from start to finish.
Yeah, he doesn't realize that it's not about desalinization or a security system for Halima. It's straight up about the belief.
That there is one goal and one goal only.
Something really struck me about this whole scene. The fact that Halima is able to get away with talking to Day like that. I understand that she's likely to be the next Proxima of this huge section of the galaxy's population. You're still talking to the Emperor.
It's interesting because Demerzel tries to put her in her place a couple times. Again, she's very on edge, defensive, looking for any way she can to prove her loyalty to Empire. And Day shuts it down.
Because he's cock of the walk. He doesn't see the situation for what it is.
So you think he's going the opposite, you know, Harry was like, oh, they're calling me Harry now.
Yes.
And he's like, no, I'll give you an inch. Demerzel's worried about the mile that Halima might take.
Yeah, because Demerzel can see the potential risk in this situation. Day has never been denied. They're meant to succeed, and they consistently do so.
And at this point, I would argue Day has probably never been threatened.
Proxima Halima, she's not Proxima yet, but Halima definitely has a lot of leverage here, because if she becomes Proxima, she can definitely lead those 3 trillion followers against the genetic dynasty. I keep thinking of when we met the Anacreons and the Thespins for the first time. They were shaking in their boots, and they were on a guided tour of the murals. That's how I expect most people to behave in this world. If you encounter the emperor of the galaxy and he's telling you what to do.
And I think that's part of why Demerzel is freaking out. Number 1, Halima is not showing the appropriate level of respect. And number 2, I think Demerzel realizes how much weight Halima's got behind her. With Day, it's almost like he's not understanding the difference between billions and trillions. He's like, yeah, you've got a lot of followers. Yikes. Demerzel basically describes shadow banning Halima and like blocking key searches. Very interesting.
It feels very specific to now.
It felt a little too now.
So Day recognizes this as one of Selden's predictions. He says, I'm not going to take it. I'll show her and Selden. I think he's snapping. I'll show Halima and Selden what I got.
I'll prove them both wrong.
And then he sass walks out of the scene.
Straight to the spiral.
Can he do this? He's got to be incredibly like physically fit.
He's got nanobots.
Yeah, he's got to make a display of taking off the shield, but he can't cheat it. He'll undercut his message. I just picture him like doing a steady pace jog with Demerzel like running up behind him, like handing him cups of water. Yeah, dabbing his shoulder. I think he'll make it. So we'll see if Day makes the spiral. I was so happy we get to see more of Gale. I've been waiting for that sweet Harry scene, that glitchy hologram.
We figured out the glitchy hologram. Well,
Give it to me.
We learned about the glitchy hologram. We're back on the Raven with Gale and the glitched out Harry Selden projection. And I gotta say it, Digital Rower was right. It's a comment that I straight up said I disagreed with. I did not think Harry was on the ship with Gale because we know his body is in the coffin of his own making.
The bespoke black and red coffin.
And so I said, no, Harry is not on the Raven. Little did I know, he doesn't need a corporeal form anymore. And it seems like at first he doesn't know how it works. Clearly he's had some trauma that he needs to process.
Yeah, what's the problem with the neural uplink? What happened? It's just really difficult to have a neural uplink when you got a knife in your belly?
I'm going to guess human brains are complicated.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the trauma of murder.
It's a sticking point for his moving on.
Yeah, he can't cross over. And Gale talks him down. She soothes him, but he still doesn't really seem to understand his new form. And then he finds out that Raish did not make it.
Has a conniption.
You really thought your murderer was going to be okay? Like, I know you had a plan.
You had to, like, account for the possibility that something would go really sideways.
Ari.
He's just so much like Day. He's just so used to getting his predictions. You know, like he leveraged his psychohistory abilities to get all of the outcomes leading up to this point.
And I believe that even though he makes a point to say psychohistory cannot predict the actions of an individual, he says it a lot. I think he also, with his eyes, will be like, but you are going to ruin everything. It's a very cult leadery thing to do as well, to put what you want to hear or what you need to hear up front and say something different with their tone. And I don't think he thinks that he can predict those actions. I think it's straight up willful manipulation.
Right. He's influencing it specifically.
Yeah.
Like when Gale says, but you said that you wanted to see Terminus and settle the foundation for yourself. Oh, did I say it? Did I say that, Gale? Did I say it loudly and all the time?
Mm-hmm.
It's called lying.
Mm-hmm.
You dingus.
Okay, here is a theory of ours that I did not expect to have confirmed. We threw this one out. I'm not sure we even talked about it on camera. Harry was going to unalive himself. That was the initial plan. And we dismissed it because we were like, no, that's so stupid. That's not how you get a martyr. The Lethe syndrome could justify the self-inflicted unaliving. But then why wouldn't they just take the knife with his consciousness to Drantor?
Yeah, there's a lot of holes in this plan, I think.
I like when he comes back after his tantrum and shutting down all the life systems and
Harry 2.0.
oh my God, he's got a black suit. He's suave. Like
Very put together.
instead of like walking, he's bipping and bopping out of rooms. He howls her. And it's just such a stark difference from when she initially is like, hey, buddy, you can't breathe.
Yeah. Why are you breathing right now? You don't breathe anymore. And he schools her on the mortality rate dropping in half. That's why I had to martyr myself, Gale.
Kind of feel like this is where he outs himself as a douche. We suspected it.
We get catty little B, Harry, when he's telling Gale, you chose this. You could have gone unrecognized. You could have submitted this solution to the Abraxas equation. And no, you were here because of you. And he's subtly like, maybe not even subtly like, and Raish not being here is your fault.
By ending his story before he had the chance to be human in front of them, his flaws remain unexplored by them.
Harry's grilling her about why she knew. And we get these flashes of all the scenes where Gale has had some intuition, right? Mm-hmm. While watching that scene, all I could think of was Harry just standing there and watching Gale go, having all these epiphanies.
I'll wait.
And then she catches the debris with that panel that she had been walking with.
The second time that a hull breach is
not a big deal.
Inconvenient.
Not a big deal.
Like if she hadn't been in that room, it wouldn't have even been inconvenient.
No, they never would. It wouldn't even have registered. Maybe on like a one line on a very large log.
Yeah, it would be in the logs.
I think that's it for episode 7. Anything else you want to add?
We love the comments. Keep them coming.
Yeah, of course.
It makes it more fun to watch.
It does. If you like this review, maybe subscribe for episode 8, and we'll see you then.
If you like us, like us.
Yeah, that too. Thanks, guys.
See you next time, internet users.